there are mainly two paths of motivation for becoming a champion. The one path is the fear not to fail. You can't afford to lose. So deep down, the motivation is fear. And there is another path, is the thirst to succeed, to be the best. To my case, I don't have any fear. I do it out of thirst to explore. That was my motivation.
Do you want to introduce yourself to begin?
Hello, my name is Pantelis, and let's have a nice and easygoing conversation and good time.
Okay, great. Okay, so how did you grow up?
I would say in a fantastic way, and it would be characterized by three main elements. The one with a huge and unconditional love. The second with freedom. The freedom to really explore the things I like, and the freedom to fail. And the third thing was without any routines. And its aspect helped quite a lot. Being raised with love makes you confident. Being raised in a way that you are free and free to fail makes you fearless. And being raised without routines makes you feel that you can cope in any environment. So I would say that was the main way, in a very happy way.
And where were you born?
In Greece. In Greece, I grew up in Thessaloniki, a very beautiful city by the sea, and we also have Chalkidiki. It's an amazing place with 3 big peninsulas, thousands of coastlines. So we would spend a few months every year by the beach.
And what did your parents do?
My father was a developer, and my mother, after raising us and being a housekeeper, she turned her hobby, which was painting, into a profession. But that was after we became teenagers.
Really? Wow. And she sells
That was quite common back at the time in Greece. So it was not my mother. It was anyone I knew around. And I think that was one of the reasons I had so great times. I would have my mother all the time around, her friends. It was easygoing time, good time. But I was also very lucky to have an amazing father, no matter how much he was working. Every day he was available. We had an event, guests, or we were guests somewhere else, and that was the case for all of my relatives and friends. It was not just my family's lifestyle. That was the lifestyle in general.
Mm-hmm. And how many siblings do you have?
I have one sister. She's amazing. She counts for many siblings. Because I would love to have even more, but I have only one.
She comes from what?
No, I mean, I would love to have a lot of siblings, but I have only one. But she counts for many. She's very, very good.
Ah, got it. Oh, yeah, she's the one who gave you the ticket to the Joe Dispenza retreat.
Yes, I'm not a big fan, but I trust her, and I went without knowing what is it.
Mm.
She also gave a ticket in the past to a course about mindfulness. I didn't know back at the time, that was many years ago, what is mindfulness. But anytime I have a recommendation from someone, I trust and I believe in their good intentions, I just do it. I don't ask what is it. So back at the time when I went for the mindfulness course, it was amazing. Amazing experience. And then another very good friend recommended once to go for a mediator. I didn't know what is mediation for commercial dispute resolution, but because he's an amazing guy, I said, okay, he has a nice intention, and this is how I went for a mediator. Similarly, I had this ticket, this gift for the Dispensa retreat, but I didn't stay more than half a day. Just it was not my thing.
Okay, is she older or younger than you?
She's younger. She's 3 years younger, and we're very lucky. She gave birth yesterday, so I have 1 more day.
Oh my god! Wow.
Yeah.
What's the baby's name?
We don't know yet.
Boy or girl?
We didn't know until yesterday. Is another girl.
Cute.
Yes, it's cute.
Okay, so what was childhood like? Like, what do you mean that you didn't have routines? Obviously, you went to school, right?
Well, school was starting back at the time when you were 5.5, 6 years old. It was not common to go to nursery, pre-nursery, and any stuff like this. A very funny thing, and that was not my case, it was everyone's case. Nobody bothered about what time we go to sleep. We could just play, and at some point we were off from too much playing, so we would fall asleep at some point. It was we would have guests anytime, and or we would go somewhere. We would play with other children up to the point where we're out of energy. So that's a typical example.
What? So even as a 4 or 5-year-old, you were free to just go and play with other kids?
Well, when you were 4, 5, you could go out of the house and play with the rest of the children in the neighborhood. The only rule that we had to be in somewhere that it could be visible. Then when we could become 5, 6, we could go somewhere that if someone would call us, maybe it was not visible, but we could hear our mom saying, your snack is ready, you have to come. And after 6.5, 7, we could just go at school or go for activity. It was quite common back at the time. Maybe it was also really safe. And if we had the luck to have a village, we would meet with the other children, explore the forests, do our own games, leave in the morning, come back anytime we're hungry, go and continue playing. And the really funny stories. Once I started calling my grandma because I played so much, I didn't have energy to walk back. So it was about 500 meters away. I started screaming, grandma. She came, she picked me up because I literally didn't have any energy to play more or to walk anymore. And I slept in her hug while walking back at home. And that, once again, don't think that my parents were irresponsible or so. That was everyone's life.
Yeah, that's great. Do you do that with your daughters now?
Well, there are few routines. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm influenced because I lived for quite many years in the UK. But I'm really trying to empower and give them a sense of freedom. So one of the best days of my life was yesterday. We went to the beach. I just laid down on the sand to feel that I'm one with it, and then I just let them play alone. It was a very beautiful place, totally isolated, and I was really happy to see them that they think they can handle anything by themselves in nature. From time to time, I was just observing; they didn't know, and it's so nice feeling to see children playing in a free way.
How old are they?
10 and 7.
Yeah, it's so important, I think.
Delia, you told me not long ago that you had a intense and heavy conversation just before with someone else. I don't know with who. I hope that it's easy going right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, cool. So then, and then what was school like for you?
The most important thing at school was the break, to play football with my other friends. This is what I enjoyed the most. But school back then, we would go 8:30 in the morning and we would finish by 1 o'clock. So it was very few hours. And then after school, would come back home, lunch, and usually my father would come back, would also go to say hi. Then he was tired, maybe to do massage to him and then let him sleep for his siesta for 20, 30 minutes. Then he would go back to work. We were obliged to be really quiet during siesta time. And then it was fun time. We would go out to play with our friends and we would have to be back because at some point we would have guests or we were guests somewhere else. And that was the day-to-day life.
Really, like every day of the week, just like on a
Every day of the
Monday,
week.
people
Yes,
will
every day
come
of the
over
week. Yes.
and you cook together and eat together.
Yes, every day.
Wow, like family or friends or whoever.
Family and good friends. Yes, big family from both sides of the parents, and a lot of friends. So yes, that was the lifestyle back then.
And you'll just play with the other kids.
Yes, yes. So that was a good life. But then, of course, when doing a lot of sports, but then when you started going to college, it depends on your family, but most of the children and teenagers, we had to study quite hard. We had to be good at school, so that was the obligation: play hard and study hard. And I would say, in my case, I had to be good in maths, science, philosophy. That was one of my favorite. Yeah, and then it was really hard time to enter in the university. It was not an easy thing.
Huh. Okay, so senior school, you were studying hard.
Excuse me, I didn't understand the question.
So, okay, so in the second part of your schooling, you were studying hard.
Yes, if you wanted to study back then, it was extremely difficult to make it. So you had to study every day, at least 6, 7, 8 hours every day.
And the expectation was that you would go to university.
So I was grown up in a totally free way. I could do any sports. I could be out every day. I could go anywhere in the city or out of the city. But I had two obligations. The one obligation was that I'm going to the university. They didn't care how. I just had to do it. The second obligation was not to play or to ride motorbikes. And yeah, I was just respectful towards my parents, and I've done both.
Huh. So interesting. Did both your parents go to university?
No, maybe. So the country and the people went through many different phases. So my great grandparents arrived from my mother's side to Greece orphans. Their parents were killed. Their properties were confiscated. And they survived, just the women and the little children.
From where?
Nowadays, it's Turkey. So they were in a part to Constantinopolis and to the Black Sea. And back then, if I remember all the stories from my great grandparents, I was lucky to meet them until my 10, 15 years old. You either had to turn Muslim or you deserved to die or to be kidnapped or to become a prostitute if you were a woman or whatever. And specifically for my mother's side, most all men from these places, they took the women and children in the forest, and they were fighting for 3 days in order to give them time to escape. All of them, all men died. Very few managed to survive, and this is how they arrived. Most of them walking, or some through other ways to Greece. And when they arrived, they didn't have anything. And that's also really empowering to grow up from your grandparents, knowing that anytime this can happen, and teaching you from very young age that your best friend is the mountains, and there are ways to survive no matter if they're intruders or they're trying to kill you or they're trying to steal. And the threat is always out there. And we were raised with this way, which may sound traumatic, but it happened to them. It can happen to us. We know where our houses are. They are not ours anymore. My grandparents visited them, so that was the case. Their life back then was totally different. Our life is very easy. Their life was not at all. It was very difficult to raise children as a woman, orphan, and then young boys to become men and manage to feed each other. Everything was from zero. The life of my father was different. There were up and downs of my grandparents. There were many wars. Greece was in the Second World War, in the First World War. There were more wars. So they also had a really tough time. But it's also part of the culture, no matter what, to educate yourself.
Huh. Okay. So did they have that opportunity to go to university?
My mother went to some, it's not exactly university, but it's some form of higher education. And my father didn't have a chance. So actually, there was some form of civil war in the country. People was back then. It was after Germans invaded the country, and the World War was if Greece is going to go with remain with the West, or become one with the Soviet Union. That war was devastating for the country. There was literally starvation. My grandmother back at the time, she needed blood transfusion, and they started selling everything in order to buy blood. So my father had to start working from 8 years old. Then they decided to move to Canada. They stopped my father when he became 14, 15 to the airport, and they didn't allow him because he had to go to the army for his obligatory military service. So all the family left, and my father stayed alone in the country from the very close relatives by 15 years old. So he didn't have the chance, no.
Oh my God, that's so sad. And he never moved to Canada.
After he finished with his military service, he moved to Canada, yes, and he stayed there for almost 10 years.
Huh? So you still have family there?
Yes, I have family in Canada, US, Australia. I have more than 100 relatives with my surname in Australia, meeting every year, having an annual gathering. You're from Australia, right? You may
Oh
have
my,
met some of my relatives there.
oh my God, that's so funny.
Yeah. Where a lot.
Okay, so then your dad eventually came back to Greece.
Yes, that's true.
Huh. Okay, so for you it was like go to university because you'll have better opportunities.
No, because in my case, because I was obliged, because my parents asked me for, and my main interest was sports. So that was all I cared about, and I had to do it, and I did. Then I got an injury, and I could not do sports anymore. Uh, so then studying became very interesting, and one thing brought the other. Working, exploring one thing, exploring something else. Back to
Yeah,
sports.
but I mean that's what they wanted for you. They thought if you went to university you'd have more opportunities. Or why did they really want you to go?
Uh, I guess it's more of a cultural and educational thing. First of all, to expand your horizons, uh, and I think that was the number one reason.
Huh. So it was more like you have the privilege to do it, so you should. Like you don't have
Uh,
to go and join the military when you're 15.
I'm trying to. Well, maybe I should clarify. Uh, we had we were lucky to have a very comfortable life in comparison to parents, grandparents, great grandparents, and more or less it's the case for most people nowadays. I believe it was hard for most people if they think the life of their great grandparents and so on. It's unless you live nowadays in Ukraine, in Libya, in Syria, and of course in Israel or Palestine. Uh, but it was uh, it was more about having the opportunity to expand your horizons and to have more opportunities to do what you like.
Okay. Cool. So they're like, yeah, they're like, we've worked hard and we're not during a war. Like, you have the privilege to go and expand your horizons.
Yes, nevertheless, I went to the army and we were trained to be ready for a war at any point. And that was many years ago, but uh, we are ready at any point if we're in this country, in Greece. Maybe not every citizen, uh, but some we are.
Yeah. Okay. So, wait, and what do you mean by that your parents, you were allowed to fail or you were encouraged to try things and fail?
Yes, uh, that was mainly the philosophy of my father. So, for example, every summer, one thing was holidays, but another thing was to arrange and place me somewhere to work. For example, I had to be an assistant of a plumber, and then I had to be an assistant of a builder, and so on. So one thing is to see what what real work, hard work is. Another thing is he would let me totally free to try stuff and fail because he believed you learn from that. And he had some light disputes with my mother. My mother was concerned not to be too difficult for the child. And there was some balance in the end between them. So it was not as much as my father would like. but still I had the opportunity to explore, and it was totally fine. I knew that no matter if I do a mistake or if something is not going that well, my family is always there for me, and that's great to know.
So what kind of things did you try and fail at when you were younger?
Well, one thing that I should not be proud of, back then, maybe even nowadays, but it's not my thing. It was very nice to go as a fan for your football club. And it was great fun to fight with the fans of the opposite football club. And you would explore how is this situation. And it was very funny because my father would allow to do so, but it was a dangerous game. And one time he got dressed in a very strange way that you could not recognize him. Maybe he wore glasses, hat, having a newspaper, and with all the fans from the one team, he was just observing from far away that I'm not entering in too much trouble. So that's maybe something that comes top of my mind.
Wow, wait, so after the game, you would get in like physical fights?
Before, during, after. Yes, we were 13, 14 years old. That was when you become a teenager as a boy. That's one of the things you are exploring, how tough you are and how tough you are in comparison to the rest of your mates.
And it's just like fist fights.
You are exploring stuff. It can be fists, it can be stones, it can be different things. But I had a conversation with my with my grandfather recently. He's 97. He's very fit, solid, very sharp. And he was telling me back then the games they were playing were unbelievable. Nothing compared to today. So, for example, the children from one neighborhood, they would have so big fights as a game, throwing stones to the children of the other, and they would bring dogs together in quite a violent way, and that was their games back then. So I guess in comparison to them, it was just a simple game.
Yeah, and no one got seriously hurt. It was.
If you were lucky.
But it wasn't like knives or guns.
Fortunately not. But I have a couple of marks on my head from stones and stuff like that. But I think I'm okay.
Huh. Interesting. Okay. And what were the other values they instilled in you, your parents?
It was definitely part of the culture, the value of family being the most important thing. I would say that's by far, and raising children. At the end of the day, as a man, that's your purpose, how to take care of your partner and the best possible upbringing of your children.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe more specifically from my father's side, he was a guy that he was always offering, unconditionally offering, and this is something that I also enjoy.
So what they wanted for your life was just that you're happy and exploring and you
I
have a
guess at
family?
some point, I think my mother doesn't remember right now, but at some point when I was, I don't know, like 6 years old, 7 years old, she told me, you're going to the university, you're going to do like something good so you can find a good wife and to be attractive for that. More or less, that was the case. So she doesn't remember right now, but I remember very well.
Huh. Okay, so then what was your path after school? Did you do military before uni or after?
It was during uni, yes. It was different. There were some parts that they were extremely challenging. Overall, it was an amazing and super useful experience.
Uni or military?
No, military, right?
And uni you enjoyed?
Because I was grown up in such a free way. I've done kind of everything from 13 to 17. Then by 18 years old, I didn't have anything to prove or test or challenge, so I was super conscious as a student. It was a very professional approach how I did my studies. And I was extremely passionate and enthusiastic with so many aspects of my studies. It was also out of passion that I started working to explore more stuff, how it works practically. So I found myself working, being a student, being a research and teaching associate, and doing a lot of non-profit activities. So it was my life really full on since then.
And what were you motivated by at that point at uni?
So, we've met each other through tennis. And because you used the word motivation, let me give you an example about what motivates someone to become a champion. And then we can go back to personal stuff if you're interested. There are mainly two paths of motivation for becoming a champion. The one path is the fear not to fail. You can't afford to lose. So deep down, the motivation is fear. And there is another path, is the thirst to succeed, to be the best. And you can become a champion both ways. Let's say, on the one hand, you have Mike Tyson back then, and he could not afford to lose, get humiliated, or experience anything awful as he experienced in the past. And he became one of the greatest ever. And then you have Novak Djokovic, and he could not approach and be as good as Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal, but his thirst to become the best was so huge that he managed to do it. So there are two different types of motivations, and I'm really interested in working with champions or potential champions, or even if someone is not a potential champion, I like to visualize that he can become, and if I can help, I would help. And then when it comes back to my case, I don't have any fear. I do it out of thirst to explore, and out of thirst to learn it as well as possible and experience it, live life, and if possible, there is something about success, to do the best possible to do it. That was my motivation.
Interesting. So you were just following your curiosity.
Yes.
Basically.
So, for example, I can be happy with really, really simple things. And I don't care about luxuries, money, or stuff like this. But that doesn't mean that I was comfortable financially, and there were up and downs in my life. But literally, I've never worked for money, but I was always working. It was purely out of interest and passion to explore. So I remember as a student, since we are talking about that period, we had a lesson for the semester. It was the lesson of marketing management. And a big part of that lesson was to create a TV spot, an advertisement. And I thought, if we have to do something like that, I'm going to spend a lot of time. Why not to do something serious? So I had in my mind, since I'm going to spend the time, I'm going to create a TV spot like it's ready for TV. And then I thought, okay, I have this idea. Let's approach Coca-Cola. And then I've created a concept. I don't remember what was the name I gave to the concept. Joint something. So I would bring two brands together, and if I would like to take elements from one brand and give to another, it would be much faster the way to do it by bringing two brands at the same time. So I thought of a product of Coca-Cola and a product of Nestlé. So anyway, I've ended up doing some stuff, and then I found a job post in the newspaper. I was not looking for a job, but it was something around marketing and advertisement. I said, "Oh, what's this? Let's find out." That was the only motivation, because I was doing a similar project in the university. So I picked up the phone. I said, "Hello, I saw this job posting. What is it about?" And back then that was in Crete Island, and everything was very close. So, why you don't come from the office? So this is how I went there. They told me what's the job about. I thought about it. I said, "Oh, I can do that, but I can do that under these conditions, because I can hit any target you like if I have these conditions." And it was really unconditional, what I asked back at the time. But the guy was very open-minded, and this is how I started working, just out of passion to explore it, and because I thought, I can do it and I can help. And then soon I became a sales director, and then a head of sales and so on, just by exploring.
Wait, what were your conditions?
Back then we didn't even have mobile phones. It was just at the beginning of the mobile phones, so there were not, of course, touchscreens. It was the beginning of maybe Skype and not Skype. At the beginning was IRC, for whoever remembers how it was. I think it was just the first years that there were laptops. So my condition was that I have a laptop, so I can present some interesting stuff to the potential clients. That was my main condition, that I get a laptop. That it worked.
Huh. Because you just wanted a laptop.
No, because I wanted to go out there. It was not that common back then, and present stuff to the potential clients. So my first job in the university was to sell advertising time in media. And this is how it started. I was preparing some presentations, how it's going to look if you get advertised, what's going to be your benefits. And it was much simpler if I could present stuff in an audiovisual way.
Huh. And do you think you weren't motivated that much by money because you had like this amazing childhood and you saw that the things that are important are like people and eating together and playing, and it's like you don't need lots of money for that?
Well, our happiness, maybe you had, I'm aware nowadays that there were times back then that financially was extremely challenging for my father. And there were other times that things were much, much better. But my father arranged to not to get exposed to any stress about this stuff, even if it was extremely challenging. The other thing that he really tried to taught us to teach was to find happiness in simple things every day. And then I remember when I became a student, he told me a few stuff. First thing that he told me is that if you become really successful, you must not change your lifestyle. And if you do anything, it has to be really gradually and step by step, not any massive changes. And then the other thing that he told me that I always remember is if things are really hard, extremely challenging, then no matter what, you have to find every day some time for yourself to do something that you like. It may be a few seconds. It may be a tiny moment of isolation. So all this stuff are not really related to money. Yes, but then, for example, what I wanted to achieve, I wanted to have the highest sales. Obviously, that would bring more commissions, but my goal was not the commission itself. The goal was to know that I've got the record of the highest sales when I had this job. And it was the same when, for example, I was coaching tennis. When I stopped traveling with players and I was in a very busy club with over 12,000 of members, there was an amazing coaching team. My goal was to be the one that has more demand than anyone else. Obviously, if you have more demand, then you earn more than anyone. But that was not my goal. My goal was to be more in demand.
Huh. Okay, so it's just so it's like you're competitive and you want to always do
this thing about being competitive, I don't know, it just kicks in. But it doesn't mean in a nasty way, or I'm a team player, and I'm totally happy to sacrifice myself for the team.
Yeah, it's more like you're competing with yourself to be the best you can be or something.
Yes, it's a form of appreciating excellence, the journey to become better every day.
Huh. Okay, so then what was your path after the marketing job?
Yeah, I've done quite a lot of teaching and research. About research, I've published a few papers. I found it quite easy, but not enjoyable. Because you had to spend too many hours in front of a laptop. And what was really hard for me was that academic ideas, would pop up while sleeping or having a dream. And then if I would not write it straight away, no matter how brilliant, I would forget next morning. So I could not control my mind. So I ended up not sleeping because of research. And I'm happy not to do it anymore. On the other hand, I really enjoyed teaching. That was good fun.
And was this all at the same university that you studied at?
Yes, it was in the same university.
Which university is it?
It's called Technical University of Crete. My department was production engineering and management.
Oh, this was in Crete?
Yes. That's a nice place to be a student.
Nice.
To live. It's a nice place to live. Lifestyle over there, it's even better than the way I was grown up. It's an amazing place.
Huh. So you were there for like 5 years or something? Or more?
What I really don't like in Greece about studying is that studies last forever. So in reality, my diploma was at least 5 years and a half. And then the average student finishes that diploma in reality in 6.5, 7 years. And if you add your military service, well, you have a very slow start. So I was there for many years in Crete Island.
And you were studying marketing?
No, I specialized in marketing. I specialized back then in artificial intelligence and neurofuzzy systems and program trading, how you can build through artificial intelligence systems that predict better the stock market. It was a versatile degree.
And why did you choose that?
Well, when I went out with a friend of mine before having my exams, and we set up some goals, what we would like to do with our studies, and we both liked windsurfing. So I said, that's a good place to be. If I could be next to the beach and so on, so I could windsurf at the same time. And the Technical University of Crete was by the beach, and I said, okay, that's a good place to become a student. So that was one of the main reasons.
Oh my God, funny. What? And then you just studied whatever degree?
By the way, I didn't become as successful like the guy I'm going to refer. There is an amazing tennis player, amazing, and he's an amazing guy as well. Maybe you should have a podcast with him. Happy to talk to him. His name is Paul Harris. He's from the Netherlands. He won 6 Grand Slams, #1 in the world doubles. He's amazing. And he was not really playing tennis until he's 17 years old. So when he became 17 years old, he should say the story. He had, so I'm not going to say anything more. That's I leave that up to him and yourself to arrange it. But he had some similar motivation, and his motivation was not to work. So he thought of a very interesting setup that made him a tennis player at the end.
Huh. So how does that fit in with you? Your motivation was to windsurf, and then the study was just on the side.
Obviously, I checked what type of studies it was. I found them very interesting back then. It was a lot about automation, robotics. It was a lot about optimization, operational research, how to create models that help you to find the best solutions in different types of problems. It included a lot of business administration. So it was very, very interesting studies. But it was only in Crete Island. And it's good to be by the beach.
And then the university where you were doing research, you stayed in Crete?
Yes. I was there. A lifestyle over there. So, for example, when I was working, what is quite common, you wake up, you go to your work from 9 to 12, you have a break to meet with a friend, have a coffee to a nice place, then you go back to your work, and then it's noontime. So it's siesta time. But in Crete, it means you go by the beach for swimming, play some beach volleyball, beach rackets, have your lunch, and so on. And then if you finish from work, that's fine. But if you have to go back to work, that's also okay. And then let's assume that you go back to work, you finish from your work around 7, 8 o'clock, and then it's time to go out every day to meet with your friends, to walk by the beach, to go to a restaurant or a coffee place. And the place is an amazing place to explore and to be. So that's quite cool. It's not like, I guess, New York or London.
Yeah. Okay, and then how did you get into coaching tennis?
So I was playing because my father really wanted me to have as many hobbies as possible. So I've tried a lot of stuff, and I was playing tennis since I was 6, 7 years old. But after university and my military, I've decided to do a property tech startup. It was a property development company with some online off-plan customization of the property. As I told you, I was playing tennis, but I stopped then for studying and so on. And when I had the property development company, there was a cash flow problem, and there was a potential customer, and it was necessary to close that deal. The guy was playing tennis. I was not interested in playing myself. My main interest was to close the deal. But if a part of the deal was to happen in the tennis court, that's totally fine. This is how I found myself back in the tennis court. And over there, I met a very interesting coach with some crazy ideas, but all of his ideas worked perfectly fine in a miraculous way. So I could not sleep at night. I said, how is this possible? How is this possible? When I was a player, nobody told me this. So I was thinking stuff about tennis. Then I was working all day. I would finish from work around 10 o'clock. It's quite common in Greece to play tennis until late, 11, 12 o'clock at night. So after work, I would go, I would have notes, and I would tell him, please, can you teach me this thing today? Then next day, can you teach me this stuff that I wrote? And one day he appeared in my office, and he told me, would you like to become my assistant? Just bring me these notes. And so that's a good thing. It's a healthier lifestyle than working and sleeping in the office. And this is how I found myself in tennis.
So then you ditched the startup?
No, I didn't ditch anything. I have a lot of energy, and I could do stuff at the same time. And speaking at the beginning about not having routines, the good thing is that routines is too easy to build it up as a habit. All you need to do is to do sports or to go to the army, and both things teach you really easy to be good with the routines. And the routines can help you to be more productive. But then I'm also totally fine without spreading myself too thin to do more than one thing. So I was doing that at the same time. And soon I was coaching one champion and then another champion. And then I said, oh, that's a nice thing, a nice thing to do. And I said, let's explore it. So I moved to Italy, Spain, a couple of places to explore abroad. That was my first actual holidays, because somehow after studying, somehow I was always working out of enjoyment to explore stuff. And I said, okay, tennis is not a work, it's not a job. I'm going to do tennis holidays. I'm going to work to do the thing I like as a coach, exploring coaching in different parts of the world. And I was lucky to meet a few Grand Slam winners, a few great professional players, some great coaches. And then I had an offer from London. And then I had to decide if I'm going to ditch my startup, the lifestyle in Greece, all my surroundings, and follow tennis or not. And that was a big and defining decision.
How many years after was this that you started coaching?
And that was about 16 years ago, in 2008.
And when did you start coaching?
Yeah, I mean, this is when I started coaching.
No, but when did...
No, I started coaching in 2007, 2006, part-time.
And when was the fork in the road that you had to choose whether to go full-time?
After 1 year, a year and a half. That was about in 2008.
Oh my God, it was that quick that you were coaching?
Yeah, I execute extremely quickly in whatever field I'm doing. I give it all.
So, and you were working independently from that other coach by that point, or you were still working for him when you were traveling around?
No. I started as an assistant, and then I became, after a few months, head coach. I was really bad coach, but my enthusiasm to help others and my enthusiasm for the sport somehow tripled the members of the club. Even if I recognized that my coaching was really bad. But when you really try to help the other and when you love it, that attracts people. And so then I was running a big part of the club, and the one thing brought the other.
The club in Crete?
No, that was back to the city I grew up in, Thessaloniki.
Huh. Wait, what? So, but you were working for the coach in Crete to begin with, or not?
No, in Crete I was just doing my studies and working in media and academics, stuff like this. Right? And then I decided that I'm going to do a startup. And I've done this startup.
In Thessaloniki?
That was in Thessaloniki, yes. And I've expanded operations out of Greece as well. Yeah, it was full on. And then I've started coaching for fun just after stopping from, I was going for 2-3 hours a day after 9 o'clock at night. Then I liked it. It became after 8 o'clock, after 7 o'clock in the evening. I started having more hours because I was enjoying that too much.
And you got better at coaching?
Well, I was exploring. I was finding out every day that I was a really bad coach yesterday, and I was trying to become better and better.
Okay, and then you were good to be working with Grand Slam players and stuff?
Step by step. Then you learn from everyone. You learn from beginners, from babies, from older people, from professionals. And then I was full-time for 2 players. Started traveling with them. I decided to make the move to leave from the UK. And after that, to do a startup in tennis coaching and management to build team of experts around players. So a whole team is traveling with a player rather than a player goes to a club. That was my next venture. Yeah, but it was a very difficult decision if I should stop the things I was doing in the past in order to change, for example, coaching.
And what did you do with the startup?
I was lucky to have an exit from that startup. And yeah, then I stopped working in the property development. I would say I definitely prefer the coaching.
So how did you decide to go full-time?
Well, the first thing that I've done is what I've learned in my university. It was a simple model about optimizing a model and finding the right solution. And according to that model, the right decision was to continue with property development. So that was what logic was saying. But I went to Italy. I spent some time in nature. I had also a couple of incidents. I had to sleep a couple of times in the forest. I didn't have a place due to some strange incidents. But that the connection, I would say, with nature made me sense what is best. And I just followed my instinct. And my instinct was not what logic was saying. My instinct was just to follow the coaching path back then.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
You had to sleep in the forest?
Yes.
For how long? Why?
For the whole night, for a couple of nights and days.
Why?
Okay, if you find this strange, I will tell you something more after that. So let's start with the forest. The deal back then was that they provide accommodation, and I'm going to do my coaching job. And the tennis courts and the accommodation was at the same place. For some reason, because it was a full season over there and the place was fully booked, they've changed my accommodation to another place very far away. And due to some misunderstanding, somehow I could not go to the other place. And that was a great opportunity to sleep in the forest.
In where? In Italy?
Yeah, that was in Sardinia. So
So
But
you just
you know,
slept on the ground without a tent or a blanket or anything?
well, I went to the beach, I got a sunbed, and I brought, yeah, but I was in the army as well, right? So it was not the first time.
You stole a sunbed.
I took it back. I just had it for a couple of nights. But,
Oh
yeah, I
my
took it
god.
back. I didn't take it with me in the plane.
Did you tell people?
Yes.
They're
But
like, how did you sleep? You're like, yeah. Great. I was in
one
the forest.
time, I think this is like nobody knows. And one time I was walking over here in the city, and I said, it was really late at night, and I said, how is it to be homeless? Like, there is people. Okay, fortunately, we don't really have a lot in Greece, so you don't see it, right? But I just happened, and I said, how is it? And I said, okay, I don't know how I got inspired that night. And I said, okay, let's try. So I said, I'm going to sleep on the bench over here to see what's the feeling. And it was fascinating to see uh, the reactions of other people. All right. So that was an interesting experience.
So you slept on the bench?
Yeah. Yes. But by the way, I just remember that was not the first time. I also had an experience like this when I was a student, because I found scorpions in my flat, and they were everywhere. So first they were in the bedroom, and I said, "Oh, I had to study. I could not do anything for the next day. I had exams." I said, "Oh, I can't use the bedroom. It's full of scorpions." Then I went to the kitchen. I found scorpions in the kitchen. Oh, I can't use the kitchen. Then I went to the living room. Anyway, by late night, they were everywhere. And I said, I can't sleep. So I went, I said, I need to sleep even a few hours in order to be fit for my exam tomorrow. And about 2 o'clock at night, I went to a hotel in Crete, close to my place. And I said, can I sleep? Do you have a room for 6 hours? Maybe less. And I could not afford. The price was too much. I said, I need to sleep for a few hours. So my only choice was to sleep in a park. And then I thought, wow, this place may be dangerous. And then I thought again, so people who would see a person to sleep in here, they would be scared of me. So obviously the one to be scared is the people to see someone sleeping in the park. And so I slept in a really calm way, because I was the safe one. Probably all the rest would be scared. And that was one experience.
Wow. Okay. I guess it wasn't
I
that
was young
cold.
back then. No, Crete Island it was good. Although it was there is humidity. Sometimes humidity is a lot, but okay, you can survive for the night.
Wait, so what did you learn from sleeping on the bench? What if someone you knew saw you?
I had scorpions everywhere in my
No,
flat.
the other time.
Okay, they know more or less I'm a serious guy. I'm okay. I just wanted to lay down over there and see how it feels.
But
I didn't do anything bad.
You slept the whole night.
Yes, the whole night until you're not sleep anymore. It's not the most comfortable place. At some point, you need to stretch yourself. You wake up, and then you say, "Oh, actually, the beach is very nice. Let's go for a walk." It's not like in your bed. You can sleep happily forever.
So what if like your sister walked past or something at 5 a.m.?
I will tell you the truth. I felt like to see how it feels. So I didn't do drugs, and I was a drug addict, destroying my life. Whatever. I was just exploring this experience.
Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. Do you still do random stuff like this?
It's different when you have children. When you have children, you have a less adventurous approach. But when you are single, it's a good opportunity.
To sleep on the street. Okay. Okay. Shall I ask you? Wait. So, is there anything else of your story that you want to share?
one thing that I like. Let's say you're driving to go everywhere. I really like for some days not to drive and use any public transportation. So I get the feeling, there is a wall that never drives. How is the life day to day? Similarly, I visit one city, and there are some streets that are really dangerous, and there is a lot of people that lives over there. And how is it in your own bubble? So how is it in another world? So I like to go and walk over there and see how is this part of life. So I always had this thing. I want to be connected with what is going on around us.
Huh. Wait, which streets?
Any street, any city. Or for example, when I'm in the train, in the underground, I would never read a book. I like to. Well, it may sound weird, but I like to watch people to understand who is who, what's going on around, what's the habits nowadays, and so on. Uh, so I think it's quite empowering to be connected, if possible, with reality as much of it.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And so today, are you still driven by the same things? Like you just do your best, find opportunities that are interesting, continue to explore like that?
Yes, as long as you don't risk uh, anything that you are responsible for. But more or less, I'm trying to keep that spark and the same level of motivation intact, pure.
What's your proudest achievement in your life so far?
Having children, having 3 children, that's my proudest.
And career-wise?
Hey, that comes second, third, fourth. Career-wise, exploring so many different paths, helping internship students to become better, helping a client to have the house of their dreams, helping a player to become a champion, things that involves some form of human connection in a supportive way.
Mm-hmm. And that's just what you intend to continue doing?
It doesn't fully depend on me. If I'm lucky to be healthy and alive and have more experiences like this, that's perfect.
Cool. Okay, can I ask you the last 3 questions?
Sure.
How do you stay grounded?
You need to fail. You need to fail, and that humbles you. That's one thing. The other thing is to realize how small and unimportant you are. One simple thought is just to look around you. How far away can you reach? And you take all that space that you can reach with your own eyes. And then how much of this space do you capture? And it's less than 0.1%. And then, of course, you can think of the sky and more and more and more, and you are absolutely nothing. It's just you have the greatest and the rarest opportunity to be alive and explore this form of life. But deep down, you were and you're going to be absolutely nothing. So why not to be grounded? Maybe because you are too lucky to be alive. I don't know.
Yeah. But you still matter, because some people get to that point when they feel like they're so insignificant and then that they should just die because they feel like nothing matters.
Well, if there is lack of understanding and not having the opportunity to appreciate that limited gift of life that we have, and then you find yourself in really dark places. Yes, and it's most unfortunate.
Okay. Is there a book that's had the biggest impact on your life?
I would say the book is Timaeus from Plato. It's one of I think it was the hardest book to study and understand. But it's intellectual is the best book I've ever found. And it's a conversation between Plato, Socrates, Timaeus, and Critias. And the first part of the book is the dialogue of Critias, and he dives into the history of the planet. He speaks about the world war that happened back then, how societies were formed before and after that war. And then Timaeus explains how the universe was created, the science and the philosophical approach behind it. And what I find extremely beautiful over there is that the universe is consisted from 3 categories of substances. The one is the eternal substance, the divine substance of God. The second is a semi-eternal substance, such as the stars, that they live for millions, billions of years, and they're responsible for giving life. And the third substance is a substance that dies, changes forms. And by the way, it also rejects the multiverse theory. So even if there are many universes back at the end, all this belongs to a greater whole. And according to Plato, that's God's soul. And this is where we live. We live in the soul of God. It's around us and within us. And there are a lot of scientific explorations, let's say, in that book. So I find it really fascinating, and a very beautiful cosmos theory. Another book I really like is Homer Iliad. I would say these two books. And another book, it's also The Science of Parenting from Margaret Sutherland. That was very useful to help my tennis players to understand how they grew up when they were babies, maybe. And that was useful also for my children.
What's it called? The Science of
Parenting is about brain chemistry. Yes, and brain development. The Science of Parenting.
And what are the 3 words that describe the best version of you?
Well, I feel, on the one hand, I feel uncomfortable because I never tend to talk about myself, and it's the first time that happened for that long. And you ask things about me, which usually is the other way around. I ask things to people. So, back to your question, what exactly was it?
What are the 3 words that describe the best version of you?
Loving, supportive, and enthusiastic. And speaking about enthusiastic, what I really like is exploring the meaning of words. And so this is a beautiful word, because one thing is to understand, another thing is to define it. And N means inside, but because it starts with an E and not with an I, it means it's inside, but there is energy flowing upwards. And theosis is like becoming one with God. So it's this feeling that it uplifts you to make you feel in a more divine way. So if anyone feels like that, straight away it's a better version of themselves.
Cool. Okay. Where can people find you if you want to be found? Or nowhere?
Anywhere. But online. Although I try not to be in front of a computer. I'm actually running a masterclass this Saturday in the University of Sports Science in Greece, in Thessaloniki, Greece. Actually, I think it's going to be fully booked, so we're trying to find a bigger space. And that's mainly about tennis. It's best coaching practices, management practices for clubs, debunking some tennis coaching myths, growing tennis specifically for little ones, and then a few things about well-being for tennis coaching. You can find the course, although it's last moment, online, but you have to be in Greece for this one.
And this won't be posted before then.
That's okay. After that, I'm going to run something else at some point, probably in London. And maybe they can find me on time. It's a startup that I've done. So if anyone has any question, they just send a video message through time, and I'm happy to reply back. And any earnings I have there, I give 100% to the Prince's Trust for charity.
Cool. Okay. Thanks so much.
Any question towards you? How was your time?